This past weekend, Daredevil Season 3 dropped on Netflix. That means today we're going to stop and rank all 11 Marvel Netflix seasons from the worst to the best. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Chandler, and I started this channel essentially because I was driving everyone around me crazy talking about movies and TV way too much. If you can relate to that you like to talk about movies and TV more than the people around you, you're probably in the right place, and consider clicking that subscribe button. Also, with that in mind, I'd love it if you'd share your ranking down below in the comment section. Which ones do you love? Which ones do you hate? And why? We're going to disagree. That's the fun part. Just do so respectfully. With that said, let's get started. Coming in last place is Iron Fist Season 1. Right out of the gate, this season starts very awkward by spending 4 episodes having Danny Rand trying to prove that he actually is Danny Rand, and from there it doesn't get much better. It tackles the idea of the hand, that there's multiple sects to it. That's kind of interesting. There's ideas in there that I really like, but the overall vibe of it just doesn't work. Tonally, it's very inconsistent, and a big part of the problem here is I don't feel like they picked the right person to put in the lead of this show, to have the right charisma, screen presence to lead a show forward. And so overall, this is a very awkward mess that feels out of place inside of the Marvel Netflix universe and never hits any of the highs that the other shows have. Coming in at number 10 is Jessica Jones Season 2. For me, this season was a huge step backwards in quality. There's a couple of reasons for that. The first one is that they didn't come up with a story or villain that's even comparable to Purple Man. They tried to go in a different direction, probably so that there wouldn't be an obvious comparison. And what they did with the plotline with the mother created a scenario where there's not something we're trying to overcome. There's not a sense of urgency. It's just a bunch of character moments, which leads to the second problem with the season, is that they made the characters all so broken by the events of their past, and they're not moving forward, that they become very unlikable. Add to that, Patsy Walker just goes off the rails and becomes so despicable that you hate her, which creates a scenario where there's a season where there's no one that we're rooting for, no one that we want to be see taken down, so we're just drifting through a season with characters that we don't really like. At number 9 is Luke Cage Season 2. This is another disappointment and step backwards in quality, which is frustrating because I enjoyed some of what they were trying to do with this season. Thought the MacGyver character was quite interesting. I really enjoyed the actor playing him. He has a nice screen presence and a physicality to them that's a very nice foil to Luke Cage, but the plot line that they went with was just so muddled and lacked clear forward momentum, which seems to be a recurring theme in a lot of the weaker seasons of the Marvel Netflix universe, is that things happen, there's people that do bad things, but our heroes aren't that heroic and our villains aren't that villainous, and so we're just kind of going through a series of episodes with characters that have conflict with each other, but nothing that we're really stressed out about waiting for it to get overcome, in which case the seasons kind of come off forgettable and you don't even remember a lot of the specific details. Number 8 is Iron Fist Season 2. Now, this is a big improvement over the previous season for a couple different reasons. One of the first ones is it's a lot more focused and has a shorter episode run, so every episode feels important. It doesn't feel like it drags out. It doesn't have a bunch of rabbit trails. We have a very clear plot line about Steel Serpent wanting the power of the Iron Fist. We get their backstory. Another big improvement here is the addition of Alice Eve as Typhoid Mary and kind of her different personalities. She's able to pull it off. Like, you believe her is the sweet Mary, and then you believe her equally as the brutal killer version of her as well. And so all of that makes for some nice additions in here. The thing holding it back once again is our main cast in place. I just don't find them very compelling. I'm not very interested in them. So even though this is an improvement, the story's much better, our central characters still aren't ones that I care too much about. Coming in at number 7 is The Defenders. Now, for me, this is probably the most disappointing of the Marvel Netflix seasons because there's so much potential in bringing all of these characters together to battle the Hand, and then they brought in Sigourney Weaver as a villain in the mix. and it doesn't quite live up to all the potential that's there. With that said, I still got a pretty good kick out of this season. There's plenty of iconic fight sequences, shots, little moments where our characters duel and you have Iron Fist punching Luke Cage in the face, that fight sequence in the hallway, them battling a whole bunch of ninjas multiple times. There's a bunch of things I really like about it, but I just don't understand why they wasted bringing in Sigourney Weaver I don't really understand why the plot got so muddled, why it took so long to kind of get the ball rolling for a season with so many great characters and opportunities for action. So while it does have its great moments, it definitely leaves you wanting a whole lot more. Number 6 is Luke Cage Season 1. Now, the first half of this season, when it's about Luke Cage taking on Cottonmouth, I thought it was great. I love the aesthetic of the season, the music they chose, the setting, all of it made for a very cool, different take on the Marvel Netflix universe with a great villain that just kind of stole every scene that he was in. Then the second half of the season, they switched to this Diamondback plotline, and I mean, it goes off the rails. It gets campy, goofy, weird. It's not nearly as strong of a villain in terms of characterization or in terms of the performance, and it just drops drastically in quality. The first half of this season is like top 3 for me, and the bottom half of this season is like bottom 3 for me. Average the two out and you get it right there in the middle. So this is another very frustrating season for me because there's things I absolutely love about it, and then it just goes off the rails so bad in the second half. Bringing us into the top 5 is Jessica Jones Season 1. Now, this is probably the darkest of the seasons inside of the Marvel Netflix universe, as it deals with Jessica Jones processing all of the pain she's dealt with in life, plus everything that Purple Man did to her as this character that takes away someone's ability to consent and takes her on a very dark journey, and it explores all of that in all of its gritty details in a way that gets very emotional at times and that you wouldn't expect from a comic book TV show. And with that, it gives us a villain in the Purple Man that you hate, that is so creepy and gets under your skin, and you just want to see him defeated. With all that said, the season is probably a few episodes too long, and the final payoff of seeing the Purple Man get defeated doesn't pay off quite as well as I wanted it to, but there's some excellent moments inside of here, dark places that absolutely work, and if only they could have tightened it up a little bit and had a little bit better of a climax, this once again is easy top 3. Before I give you my top 4, tell me your ranking down below in the comment section. Which ones you love, which ones you hate, and why. Also, after this video, check out this playlist above of my best and most up-to-date Marvel Netflix rankings. I'm actually going to be updating a few of those and adding some new ones to the list over the next week, since we are kind of closing out 2018 and this is the last Marvel Netflix season of the year. With that said, let's get back to our top 4. Coming in at number 4 is The Punisher Season 1. I absolutely loved what they did with The Punisher in Season 2 of Daredevil, so when they announced that they were going to give him a season, I was totally on board with it, and for the most part, it lived up to my expectations. It kicks off with that great little episode with him working at the construction site, and we get to see a little bit of his form of justice with a sledgehammer, and then we continue on with the military plot line, learn more about his history, all a bunch of really great stuff with that brutal action, and Jon Bernthal giving this performance that has so much. It's so dynamic because he can be the angry version of the Punisher. He can be the sensitive, broken person thinking about his family, and then he can be likable while doing all of it. While doing horrible things, he can still be very likable. I was a little bit disappointed that we went backwards again and explored his origin story and his military time. I was hoping we'd move forward to him taking out the mob a little bit more, but hey, I enjoyed what they gave me, so I don't want to complain too much. Bringing us into the top 3 is Daredevil Season 2. I love what they did with the Punisher here. His kind of different philosophy and ideology from Daredevils, and the fact that when they sit down and have a conversation, it's just as exciting as them going out, beating up, shooting bad guys. So many of the scenes with Frank talking to people, whether it's courtroom scenes, whether him talking with Karen in a diner, I loved the dialogue. Where it kind of loses me a little bit is the story's pretty unfocused. And we have the Frank Castle story, and then it shifts to about Elektra, and then it's about the Hand, then it's about bodies being brought back from the dead, and then Frank comes back into it, and it's about this military plot line, and it doesn't feel like there's a clear through line with it. As much as really my favorite moments inside of the Marvel Netflix universe are in this season, as the season itself, it does have some problems, so I had to knock it back a little bit. Our runner-up is Daredevil Season 1. Right out of the gate, this show just wowed me with how serious it takes the subject matter, how well choreographed the action is, and that not only did they cast an actor of Vincent D'Onofrio's caliber to be our main villain here, but they wrote him as this deep, complex, nuanced character. I mean, you absolutely buy Charlie Cox as a blind guy, as a physical force that can do cool jumping kick things. He pulls all of it off. Add to that, the action here is just phenomenal, as I've already touched on. But truly, I believe the Daredevil seasons outshine almost every movie out there. Where it gets held back from being number one is it's probably a few episodes too long, and they could have trimmed it down just a little bit, tightened it up, and it would have been a perfect season. But coming in first place is Daredevil Season 3. It took them 2.5 years to put out this season, and I think it shows on screen. This is easily the most focused and tightest written season in all of the Marvel Netflix universe. The themes that are established in episode 1, the plot lines that are hinted at, the character moments that are established, all of that pays off by the final episode. And we're going deeper into these characters than we've ever gone before. We're seeing Matt with a crisis of faith. We're seeing Karen as a character that's very dark. Sometimes it's a courtroom drama, sometimes it's about an FBI investigation, and sometimes it's about Daredevil punching people in the face. All of it fits together, it all has the same tone, and it builds up momentum as it goes along. I got more and more desperate. I felt the urgency of wanting to see how they're gonna stop this version of Bullseye as well as the Kingpin. And for me, this is the one that paid off the most. For me, this is the best season in the Marvel Netflix universe. Be sure to check out that playlist to the left of my best and most up-to-date Marvel Netflix rankings, and be sure to tune in over the next few days as I drop even more and update that list I just sent you over to. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much.